Hi, everyone, and welcome. We're going to get started here in just a few minutes. We'll give people some time to pop on over. We've got a great hour here with Jeff Wood from HomeStreet Bank to talk about buying and remodeling a fixer-upper home. Definitely a little bit of reality where we live, it seems, especially if you're trying to get in at a good price point. So excited to host this one. We are recording today. We'll get that up on our YouTube within a few weeks, and then we'll email it out as well. I'll go ahead and put our YouTube link in the chat towards the end of today's webinar, in case anyone wants to go look there for other classes and webinars from HomeStreet. We have lots from other partners as well. You can go ahead and send questions in the chat throughout, and we'll save questions. We'll have plenty of time at the end as well to answer questions. All right, well, Jeff, I'm going to go ahead and let you take it over.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
So thank you for attending. My name is Jeff Wood. I am the sales manager at HomeStreet Bank for Affinity Lending. We're part of your benefits package through the University of Washington, and in some of the programs that we do offer are the webinars that we can have you learn different products and different things that we do at HomeStreet for you, and kind of learning the process of buying homes and different things that we can do for you as a lender and as part of your sale, as part of your benefits as well. So I've been at HomeStreet Bank now for 21 years. HomeStreet's been here about 100 years in the Puget Sound area, so we are based here in Seattle. But I'm going to talk about the buying and remodeling a home, a fixer-upper or a home. It doesn't have to be a fixer-upper, and we'll kind of talk about that a little bit as well. So we're going to talk about that. We'll have some questions and answers towards the end of the class. So think of your questions. We'll shoot those via the chat room and kind of go over those at the end. Should be about 35 to 45 minutes on the class, depending if I can speak too quickly or not. So next slide, please. So what we'll do is, sorry, my screen is not updated. So we're going to talk about fixer-upper distressed property information today. We're going to kind of go over the different types, the pros and cons of it. We're going to go over how to find a fixer-upper, how to finance a fixer-upper, renovation projects, getting started, and then a little bit about our program as well and the benefits that you receive at the University of Washington. Next slide, please. Okay, so fixer-upper distressed property information. We'll kind of skip to the next one. There we go. And so with a fixer-upper distressed property information, so what we want to do is kind of probably just kind of tie this in for purposes. The fixer-upper and distressed property, kind of the same category. But with distressed properties, they fall into one or more different categories. A short sale. So a short sale is with a risk of falling into foreclosure. A lot of times if somebody owes more on their house than what it's worth, they have to sell it for less than what they owe on the house. We're not seeing that as much in the market right now because a lot of homes, they can at least sell the home for a little bit of a profit or at least break even on the homes. So we're not experiencing short sales like they were 2008, 2009, 2010. We have a house that's already in foreclosure process. So if the bank's taking it back, a lot of times they're trying to sell it, get some money for it before the bank takes it back. Other distressed properties are bank owned or REO. So you'll see an REO out there as an acronym, and that's real estate owned. So that just means that whoever did the lending on it owns the property now. So usually it's one of our investors, Fannie Mae, FHA, VA, USDA, they own the property now and they're trying to sell that. Or you'll see where the county is actually trying to sell it based on tax lien. So somebody doesn't pay their taxes. A lot of times they'll sell those homes on the county steps. So that's where that's a completely different process as well. We'll kind of cover that a little bit. Or you have a house that's in badly need of repairs. They cannot sell it on the open market because as a lender, we have to have basic needs of a house to fulfill, and we cannot do a regular loan if it needs repairs or updating or just complete remodel. So kind of like pick the picture in the house right there on our slide. So next slide, please. Okay, so we're going to talk about the pros and cons of a fixer-upper. So there's several advantages of buying a fixer-upper. The main things is it's a great path to the first time of buying a home. So yes, it does challenge you a little bit, but it is a great time to get into a home as your first home, because you can get it for a little bit less than what the going market would be. Next, it might be a lot less competition, because a lot of customers want to move in. They want a turnkey house. They want to say, oh, let's move in. We move our furniture. We live in it. We're fine. Others, you know what, if it needs some work, they can see the benefits of going in and fixing up and making it their own. You might be able to buy a larger home. So the market, just with the way prices are, you might not be able to get into the house that fits your family needs to get the larger bedrooms, or the more bedrooms or more bathrooms. So with this program, or this type of program that we're going to look at, can help you get into a house that's usually a little bit bigger than what the normal market would allow. You can personalize it. You can make it your own. So if you're renovating it, you're not moving into a house that somebody else made their own. So you're going in and making the house look much more like what you want. Also, quality renovations. You can take charge and say, you know what you want to renovate on the house. You get it to be just like how you want it to be. So, and then also lower costs, which you can allow for a lower monthly payment. So if you get into a house with a little bit less money, it allows you to use that money for fixing it up, and it saves money for future home improvements as well. So it keeps your payment low. So next slide. Now the cons of buying distressed property. There's some disadvantages of buying a fixer-upper. So there's a potential for money loss. So you can get into the house. I think the biggest one I remember as a kid seeing the movie Money Pit, where they buy the house. It's a great deal, and they just sink their life savings into it, and the house ends up falling apart, if I remember right. So you want to be careful. So there are inspections. There are things you can do to make sure you're not going to stick your neck out too far on a house. So you want to make sure that you can limit the loss of investment if you're buying a fixer-upper. Significant time investment. It'll take you a lot longer to initially to see the work that you're putting into the house, depending on contractors and the work that needs to be done, or if you're having certain things delivered. So it might take a little bit longer to get the house that you want, even though it might be the house you want. It may take 3 months or 4 months or a little bit longer to get that done. And then also unanticipated items such as structural issues or other things that can throw budgets completely out of whack. So if you have a foundation problem that you missed, or let's say you're tearing into a wall and then you find out, okay, we can't do that because of the structural soundness of the wall, that it's a load-bearing wall, so you can't really tie into that how you wanted to. So there's things that come up, and so you want to look at that and make sure you have that budgeted in, or if you're doing a loan, we'll talk about that, you put up contingencies. So once you tear into a house, you don't know what let's say the house was built in 1920, you don't know what that wall might have, or what that house might have inside its structure. And then depending on what items need to be fixed, it may require a special skill set. So sometimes it's not just a little bit of paint and some new floor where you can probably get from the box store or do yourself. Sometimes you might need a larger skill set, somebody that can do a new roof, somebody that knows how to plaster or put sheetrock up, paint, and do a lot more advanced work on the house. And then again, reality television fixer-upper shows, they gloss over most of the fixer-uppers. A lot of times they make it look so easy to do, but it looks great at the end. So you have to be careful, because they've got a huge budget behind them, even though they say, oh, we're over budget on this. They're making their money from TV. So it's not a huge reality when you're looking at the HGTV shows and do-it-yourself shows. So next slide. Let's see. And then, so finding the fixer-uppers. So that's kind of the next step, because a lot of times I get questions. I remember that when we were doing a lot more fixer-uppers, people are like, okay, how do I find it? Most options require realtors. So some realtors specialize in short sales and foreclosures. So most of the times when these are for sale, they're going to be listed on the MLS, which is the multiple listing service. So they'll be out there listed like a normal home. You may not know it's a distressed property unless you look at the financing. A lot of times it's cash buyers only, or we only do VA financing, or we do FHA only. So there's reasons why, or FHA 203K, and I'll cover that a little bit later. But it's specific loans to help you get into it, but you're going to need to do a couple more things like renovate the house and to make it livable for somebody to move in and make it lendable for a bank to want to lend on that house. So a lot of times your agents will specialize in it. So you want to talk to the agents, you want to call the shop or the agents you've worked with in the past, find out if they're an expert in it, or find out if they have somebody. Or that office might even have lists of foreclosed properties that they can go in and make offers on. So oftentimes short sales, pre-foreclosure homes are listed on MLS, but not always. You'll also see them pop up on other homes like realtor.com or Zillow or homes.com. Those are not MLS sites. Those are actually sites that are independent of the multiple listing service, and they're not using realtors in a lot of cases. Sometimes a realtor will take a MLS site and put it on a Zillow or on a realtor.com, but it's not always on there. So just keep that in mind if you're looking at the at different sites for homes. But typically, if you're looking at a Windermere or a John L. Scott or a Redfin, those are MLS properties. They're listed on the multiple listing service for the Northwest. So that's kind of a good way to kind of keep an eye on it. So, but check with local real estate agents, get them involved, have them look for you. Excuse me. And then also several federal agencies have their own properties to sell. So you got your HUD homes, which are FHA homes. You've got your VA foreclosures. You've got Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac foreclosures. A lot of times when the bank has to foreclose on them, if the bank did all of the research on the loan, extended it out, extended the loan to the customer, and the customer just had a foreclosure, and it was not the bank's fault, the investor actually takes that loan back. So then the bank itself is not tied up with that loan. So the investor actually takes it back, and you'll see HUD.gov, which is again FHA loans. They have information on how to buy homes, HUD homes. So you get lists. Some realtors specialize in HUD homes as well. So I have a couple agents. That's all they do is they work with HUD homes on a regular basis for sale. So and we'll cover a couple other sites throughout the slides as well, just to where to look for. Next slide, please. Okay, so again, just quick definitions. Foreclosure. This is the act of the lender seizing the home. So after the borrower fails to make payments. So sometimes you'll see it where a pre-foreclosure where it hasn't quite been taken back, or a foreclosure where typically it's almost to the point. So they want to sell it. You might be able to get it sold before the house is taken back by the lender, because the lender doesn't typically want to take those back because it costs quite a bit to foreclose on a property, or they do a deed in lieu of foreclosure. So they'll sign the deed over to the mortgage company for a certain amount of money, and then they kind of walk away from the house. Now, short sale, again, we don't see as many short sales right now, mainly because the market is a lot higher. A lot of the prices on homes are what's owed on the homes is a lot less than what they're selling for. So we're not seeing as many short sales. I haven't seen one in a few years. But again, it's just the difference between the sales price on the home is lower than what is owed on the mortgage. So again, with this area, we don't see them as much. The next is REO. We talked about that acronym, the real estate owned. So that's where it's actually owned by Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FHA. They own the home, they're selling it, or the bank that has it is selling it. So if they did it on their own books, then they're selling that to the open market. So a lot of times you'll see it on MLS. It might not even say foreclosure. Next slide, please. So finding a foreclosure site. So here's a couple sites that I was talking about. Homesteps.com. It's a list of Freddie Macs selling to investors or home buyers. Homesteps. One I noticed is not on here. It's homepath.com. Homepath is Fannie Mae's website. So it's just like homesteps.com, homepath.com is Fannie Mae's website. I was actually on there this morning just to see how it looks, and it shows the houses per zip code that you can find that has houses for sale. Reality Track provides proprietary information such as pre-foreclosure addresses, owner information on a monthly fee. So you can sign up for different lists from them, and they can help you find from homes that are going to pop up on pre-foreclosure. Foreclosure.com is another website for finding distressed properties. Government sites for foreclosure. You got, again, we talked about HUD.gov, homesales.gov, FHA single family real estate owned properties. So there's quite a few different government ones that we do work with that you can look for and find homes for sale. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so the one part that we kind of delve into is financing the fixer-upper distressed properties. So one of the biggest things we do is a 203K loan. So it's a rehab loan. So depending on the type of loan and financing that you need to do, we have a couple different options. But the 203K loan has two different options. So if you have something that's just cosmetic for fixing up, so it's just paint and new flooring and different basic needs like new windows. As long as you're not changing the footprint, you can do a 203K. It's a streamline. It's $35,000 or less, and it's minor stuff that needs to be done. You can't change the footprint. You can't make smaller or bigger windows. It has to be the same size as when you bought the house. Now, if you do a full 203K, that is when you go in and you actually can move walls. You can increase the size of it. You can put a new bathroom in or a second bathroom in. You can put another story on. So the full 203K can work as well, but you're limited to, you can't increase it by twice the size of what is owed on the house. So if you buy the house for $400,000, you can't increase it by $800,000. So they have a limit on how high you can on increasing the amount of the loan. So it's great to use because the great thing is when you go in to buy the house, you're looking at a 203K, but you're buying the house for let's say $400,000, and you want to put the $35,000 or $50,000 into it. Well, how do you put $50,000 into a house that you just bought for $400,000? What we do is we can actually finance the purchase with the work that needs to be done and actually give you credit for the future value once that work is done. So let's say, just for easy numbers, let's say you're buying the house for $400,000 and you're going to put $50,000 into it. Typically, we can take that increase in amount that's being fixed up and add that to the value, and that gives you a rough value of $450,000. Then we base your loan on $450,000 with 3.5% down. So you can get in with 3.5% down, and all of the information all of the things that need to be fixed are built into the loan. And then we pay those as they're completed. So it protects you as a buyer. We don't just give you $50,000 to give to a builder. We actually have steps where you take draws out. So if they go in and they're going to redo all the floors or all the appliances on a minor 203K, then you have to go steps and do draw process. So once the work's done, we send an inspector out. They go in, make sure the work's been done, then they pay the contractor for the work they have done. We don't pay anything up front. So that's a nice thing. It protects you as a homeowner that you're not giving a builder a bunch of money and then, oh, let's get the work done. We give it to them as they finish. So it's nice because you can do it as a purchase or a refinance. So you don't have to purchase a new home. Let's say you have a house you want to fix up and you don't have the equity. We can actually do a 203K now and give you future value on that house and give you the work that needs to be done with the contractor. So it's a great way to go. The loan closes before the work begins. So we close the loan, the money sits there, and then we have the work started. And depending on the size of work or the scope of work, typically it's 6 to 9 months to get that work done on a renovation. Actually it says on the next thing, sorry, it has 6 months to complete the repairs. I know some of them allow 9 months depending on how extensive it is. Again, FHA allows for 3.5% down payment on a purchase. So it's a great option, and they're less stringent on qualifying requirements. So in part of our program, also you get discounts through Affinity Lending with the 203K loan. So the 203K loan is just like a regular loan with us. You get your half a point off your loan amount. So that helps with the closing costs on these. One thing with 203K is typically closing costs are about 2 to 3 times higher than regular closing costs, because you have inspections, you have to have new title reports done, you have to have a new appraisal done. So there's a few things that are added in there. Plus, they build in a contingency fund, typically 5 to 10% of what you're renovating. So if it's a $50,000 renovation, they might hold $5,000 in the event. Let's say you tear into a wall and you find out, oh, this has a chimney in here. We need to remove the chimney and get it all cleaned up. So it might cost an extra couple grand to get that wall fixed because it had a chimney in there. So there's different things that pop up. Again, you don't know what you're getting into sometimes when you buy an older home because it hasn't been opened up for a while. Next slide, please. So other financing options for fixer-uppers. There's a lot of programs and not just the 203K. That's kind of the main one that we use because a lot of times you don't have the equity built up. So you want to get pre-approved if you're looking to make an offer on a fixer-upper. But once you find the house, there's different options we can look at. So renovation loan, it doesn't have to be just a 203K loan. We have them with conventional. We do have them with our portfolio. And a portfolio means we just keep that loan in-house. It's a HomeStreet bank loan. It's HomeStreet bank money. Rate might be a little bit higher, but we can do a lot more with that because we write the rules. So renovation loan, we can do that again. Portfolio, we can do a conventional one with 5% down. It's a great process to use that. And again, we use future value on that for a purchase or a refinance. So it doesn't have to be a purchase. It can be a refinance if you already own the home. And then we covered FHA, and that one has to be a primary household. Whereas a renovation with conventional, you can buy you can do a renovation loan on a future rental property as long as you have the right amount of down payment. There's a little bit more down payment required if it's non-owner occupied. Now let's say you've been in your house for 5 years or so and you've built up a lot of equity. So you have the equity in a renovation loan. It probably doesn't make as much sense. The renovation loan usually needs it if you don't have the equity built up. But with a home equity line of credit, that's available typically if you have a lot of equity and you want to tap into that, but you don't want to touch your first mortgage. Because let's say you have a 2.5% or a 3% mortgage that you locked in a couple of years ago. Nobody wants to touch that because our current rate's about 5.5 right now on a 30-year fix. So doing a home equity loan is nice because it gives you a line of credit anywhere from 50,000 to 500,000 roughly. And you can use it as you want. It's like a credit card tied to your house. Use what you need, pay back at your own leisure. It's an interest-only payment, and so the payments are relatively low. And it allows you to access that money at any time up to your credit limit. Interest-only payments, the only downside, it goes off prime. So whenever the Fed changes the prime rate, we go up or down. So it can change on a monthly basis. So I know they're meeting next week. Prime could go up. It just depends on where the Fed puts the interest rate for a line of credit. And most lines of credit with banks, that's where they tie them into prime. So they're going to be very similar if they are doing home equity lines of credit at the moment or not. And then the other option is a conventional mortgage, just doing a refinance. If you have enough equity, let's say you built up a lot of equity in the last few years, and your rate, maybe you're not as rate sensitive, but you want it tied into one fixed rate. Conventional mortgage is a great way to go. You fix it in 30 years, and maybe look at down the road, refinance it. But the nice part is it typically with a conventional mortgage, it might not be considered a cash out if you're refinancing to do home improvement. So there's different things you could look at doing. You might get a little better rate if you're doing fixing the house or with the renovation, like I said. So there's a few kind of positives to doing a conventional loan and putting it as a fixed rate. So we'll do the next slide, please. Okay, so a couple things on, I'm doing on time, about 24 minutes. Okay, So renovation projects getting started. So when you're buying the house, you want to get a home inspection. So the home inspector can help you determine, okay, if it has any major underlying problems, that can get kind of the address what you need to do with the planned renovation on the property. So you could go in and check, okay, is this house a complete tear down, or does it have good bones? Does it have something you can work with? I've seen every gambit in the 25 years I've lent. I've lent on homes, and I've seen customers walk in, see the foundation with their home inspection, say, nope, you don't want to buy this house. I've seen others just like, oh, we can deal with this, we can work on this, and let's do it. I've had some that bought into the renovation, went in, tried to renovate, and walked away from the house. So you've got to be careful, and a home inspection is a great way to start, mainly because you can see what could be wrong, what to avoid on the house. If there's certain things that could surprise you during the project. So there might be things that the inspector will see, because typically home inspectors are former carpenters, former construction leads. They know what to look for on houses. They can look at plumbing leaks. They can see where things have leaked, or let's say the foundation's settling. They see cracks, they can investigate, oh, what's this coming from? Or is it just normal wear and tear? So getting a good home inspector helps you avoid a lot of surprises in the scheme of things. So, next slide, please. Okay, and then number 2, determine the project's focus. Ask yourself, what's the primary purpose of your renovation? Addressing structural, functional issues. For example, do you want to add another story? I've had customers that went up with the house. Do you want to open floor plan? Do you need to take some walls out? Figure out what you want to have done with the property, especially once you have that inspector there. If you have ideas, you want to pass that by and say, okay, this is what we're thinking of doing. They can go in and quickly say, okay, this is a load bearing wall. We can't open up this whole kitchen to the living area. So you've got an expert with you. So having those things addressed ahead of time might save you on the planning. And then simply updating the look and feel of the home. For example, if you're updating flooring, changing out lighting and plumbing fixtures and paint, that might just help and keep it very simple. So it might just need that. So it just depends again on the wear and tear that's on the house, how old it is. If it's a newer home built in the 70s or later, or earlier, or 70s or earlier than that, it really depends on how things are changed, because building code changes throughout the years. And so you always have to build up and catch up to the building code on a home once you start renovating. So you have to keep that keep in mind as well. And go to the next slide. So again, number 3, you want to obtain cost estimates, complete your research. The main thing is get realistic estimates on what you want to have done with the house. Check out your needs and wants. The main reason is because, especially in the market right now, things are costing a lot more than what they normally have with inflation, with scarce resources, with the cement strike. There's a lot of things that are happening within the building industry that are slowing stuff down, and it's making other things cost a lot more. So with construction loans I'm working on now, weird things are popping up. Cost overruns are becoming more and more apparent. They're charging more for lumber even after they get bids. So you want to be realistic on your cost estimates and make sure you have a contractor that you know that you get good research from, and you find out a lot of information on their background. And the nice part about the renovation loan, we actually check our contractors. So if you have a contractor, you bring them to us, we vet your contractor as well. We don't just let anybody go in and do a renovation loan. We have to make sure that they are able to do it, and they'll be able to do the paperwork with us and complete that contract with you and with us, because we don't want it sitting there for 9 months or longer on a renovation. So check with the estimates, get realistic estimates from your contractors, get a couple different bids from contractors, go word of mouth, find out from your friends, your family, who to use, and just kind of determine that, mainly on the estimates, just to protect yourself and to make sure they are available for the work that needs to be done. Because mainly with contractors, if they're not busy right now, there's a reason why they're not busy. So most contractors right now are at least 3 to 4 months out if they're bidding out new jobs. So keep that in mind. If they're ready to be at your house next week, that would put a red flag for me, just because I know most of my friends that are contractors are completely slammed right now. But also, when you're going through and getting the estimates, find out what you can do yourself. Again, the do-it-yourself stuff, there's some things we allow you to do as a bank on your loan. You can talk with your contractor, work with them and say, okay, I want to do this myself. You have to price in the work as if he's doing it or she's doing it. And just because, let's say you fall off the ladder and you can't finish the painting, we have to pay somebody to come in and finish the painting. So doing it yourself is allowed on some aspects. And again, the contractor has to be okay with you coming in there. I had one job where the customer wanted to do his own tile work. Contractor was not okay with that. The contractor's like, I either do the tile work because my name's on it, or I won't do the job. So we ended up, he didn't do the tile work, and we just took that out of the bid. And then he went in and did the tile work later on his own. So there's compromises that you can have as well. So so just keep that in mind with do it yourself. Again, most of the time we don't allow the entire project as a do it yourself unless you have the resume as a contractor. If you're a general contractor, or if you've got somebody in your family that's doing the work, we have to get them vetted. We have to get them approved for the project. Because if it's yourself doing it, you got to think about, okay, you have a 40-hour a week or whatever hour job. We have to make sure that you have enough time to get that plan. So again, we price it if somebody else goes in and does the work. Okay, so is the project as planned possible at this time? If so, great. If not, changes can be made to the project. Is that possible? Estimates can come in a little bit higher. So if you get it to come in at budget, you're in great shape. But again, we build in the contingencies just in case that estimate does come in a little bit higher. So we do plan for that a little bit. And again, estimate your costs high. So if it comes in a little higher and you don't have to pay as much, that's a great deal. Let's see. Also remember any permits you have with the project. Research your local permits. If it's just a renovation, a lot of times the permits are a lot quicker. If it's a complete tear down and rebuild of the house, it can take a year or longer with the county. So depending on what you're doing can delay your permit process. I've had one customer that waited a full year to get permits because they were tearing the house down. It was a waterfront house and they had to meet certain requirements before they could even tear it down. So it took a year just to get the permits and another 6 months to get it torn down because of the waterfront access. Let's see, and then find out how to obtain the permits. To go into the county website, a lot of times your contract costs, how much time it will take, because a lot of times, again, you don't know if it's going to be a 3-month permit or something that you take and it's real quick. So next slide, please. Okay, then working up your budget. So a budget can help you narrow down your list of your wants and needs. I talked about it earlier. Figure out what you want to have done, what you can afford, how much things cost. When you're setting a renovation, figure out you add 30% for unexpected costs of materials and labor costs. Typically, we do collect for an extra 10% in most cases, but again, 30% for cost overruns, it's probably a good idea in this market. Mainly because, again, things are starting to increase, inflation's not helping, scarcity is still not helping as well. So, if you use a renovation loan to finance your remodel, generally it's itemized budget for your projects required, so we have to have that broken down. There's a link here for tips on how to create a remodeling budget. So it's a great link to go on and look. I just kind of see, okay, this is what we have. What are we going to do? Are we going to do the floors? Are we going to do the appliances? Typically, we'll do most anything within the house confines on a renovation. Some things they don't do are outbuildings, hot tubs. Sometimes landscaping can be included. Really depends on the project. But if it's something that can be usually taken with you, a lot of times we cannot put that in the renovation budget unless it's an appliance. Typically, appliances can be added into the budgets. Secure the project financing. So once you figure out what you're paying out of pocket for the project, what you need for the home loan, figure out what type of loan you're gonna do. Figure out, okay, it's cashback refinance, home equity loan, line of credit, renovation loan. So you want to figure out what it is you want to have done. And again, it can take 30 to 60 days to get that loan processed, depending again, the scope of work that you're looking at. Next slide, please. Okay, 6, hire a contractor. Again, don't just pick a name out of the phone book. Solicit friends, family for referrals. Take time, interview them. I've had some people that have gone with the first contractor just because they had a great bid. Sometimes it's not always the lowest bid. Sometimes it's not the highest bid either. But if you can take a look and see, okay, what it is they're doing and find out, okay, here's this high bid. Let's say it's 50,000, the other one's 45,000. Find out the difference. Find out who you got the recommendation from. Get a little bit of information. Do research online. There's so much information about these builders online in most cases. They can give you a lot of information by just looking up their name or their company business. Also check with the state. You can check with the state and their bonding with their license. Just kind of see what information you can find out from that contractor. So, but again, don't go with the lowest bid always. It's not always a great deal. Work up the timeline. Be realistic with your contractor and figure out how long it's going to be and how long that's going to take. Because let's say you're gutting the house and it's your only place to live. Maybe you need to live somewhere else for 6 months or 3 months. You might not want to live in the middle of it. So take an idea, figure out, okay, what you need to do. Some of the, like the FHA loan lets you build in 6 months of mortgage payments. It's a great way to do that because let's say you build in 6 months of payments, you go live at a hotel or a rental for 6 months, they can make your mortgage payment out of your loan while you sit and make payments on your rental for 6 months. So it's a great way. I've had some that stay with their family, or others that stay in a manufactured home on the property. So there's or a fifth wheel on the property, not manufactured home, excuse me. But so just figure out where you're going to stay. If it's something you can live within, or if it's something that you don't have a kitchen for the next 6 months. So, and be patient. Sometimes even the best laid plans don't go well. Keep your team in place. Keep an idea of what things are costing. Kind of keep to your budget, and just kind of keep your chin up with things that come up, because things will come up when you're tearing into an older home. So even some of the new homes, some things come up. Next slide. So just with the fixer-upper renovation, just kind of talks about, here's the before and after. Kind of an interesting slide. And then we'll go to the next one. So I talked about a little bit with our affinity benefits. So there's 4 of us here in the Puget Sound area. You can reach out to us. There's only 2 of us that do renovation loans, but the 4 of us do home equity lines of credit, cash out refinances. 2 of us do the construction loan, so we can help you with construction or renovation loans. But the nice thing is we are a non-commissioned loan officer base. Unlike we have about 60 loan officers at HomeStreet, there's about 20 in affinity lending throughout the Western U.S., and 40 of those do full commission. So you want to call our numbers, talk to us directly, and I'll cover the number here in a minute. But call us because you'll save on your closing costs. So 0.5 point on a refinance and 0.5 point on a purchase of your loan amount. And if you're purchasing with one of our dealers, they kick in 0.5 point up to 1% of their commission. So that could be a large amount of money for down payment, or for your closing costs, I'm sorry. We also offer down payment assistance. It's not in a renovation loan, but we do offer down payment assistance when buying homes for first and second time home buyers. Financial fitness tools and resources. We do webinars like this. We do webinars on budgeting, credit, how to buy a home, how to buy a condo, buying a fixer-upper. Besides that, with the newsletters, toolkits, things that we have, we also work with American Financial Solutions. American Financial Solutions is a nonprofit that works out of Bremerton. They're local, and they help you with budgeting and credit, foreclosure prevention, bankruptcy prevention. So they have a great list of things that they can help you in their tool belt to be able to help you get your credit on track if you need that. Another great thing with UW, benefits are available to immediate family members. So your parents or your children can also get the same mortgage benefits from us. Again, exclusive access for Affinity Lending. You want to contact the Affinity Loan Officer, it'd be probably in your area, it'd be Nancy, myself, Jessica, or Ryan. We're all here in Puget Sound. Next slide. I think that might be. Okay, so this just has my information on here, but we do have somebody on our line 6 days a week, Monday through Friday. It's from 8 until 9 o'clock each night, and then Saturdays from 9 to 5. And that toll-free number is 888-425-6990 or 206-628. Oh, I don't have it on here. 0207. Again, that's 206-628-0207. Sorry, forgot for a second. Or my information's here if you want to contact me. You can email me, jeff.wood@homestreet.com, or directly my cell phone, 206-369-8939. So I'm available for questions now, or if you want to do more of a personal question, I'm happy to answer that by email or by phone. So I appreciate letting me talk today, and that's all I have for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. There's lots of good information. Definitely varies a lot from other types of buying that we've covered. So always great to get this one recorded to our YouTube. I'm keeping an eye out. I'm going to see if any questions have come through in the chat. None so far. I'm sure things are kind of circulating. You're welcome to raise your hand as well if anyone has a question. And as Jeff said, sometimes the best route is just to make a meeting with Jeff. It's included as our benefits as employees. You can ask any questions and just kind of explore if this is the right step for you, and if not, or where you're at. There's no, binding. You're not committing to buying a house or anything like that if you choose to meet with Fidelity, or sorry, I keep saying Fidelity, with HomeStreet. All right, I'm still not seeing any questions come through here. Maybe we can just give it a few minutes. Do you see many, do you give many renovation loans here in this market, Jeff?
I haven't, I've been doing more construction loans or total teardowns is what I usually see. It hasn't been as much renovating. I think if you start seeing, I started seeing a lot more landlords sell in the past year, because I think you saw what the state was going to start charging them more of an excise tax on landlords when they sell houses. They're going to get hit with a lot more excise tax. So I saw a lot more landlords selling their houses, but I didn't do too many renovations on that. But typically rental homes are usually not as well taken care of. But most of the people I worked with were the tenants. And so they bought from the landlords directly. So they already lived in them. So a lot of times they didn't need to do any renovations. But I think I saw more, probably more towards 2009, 2010, just because houses were in distress. People would just, they'd walk away and they'd either, I've had some where they just took everything down to the knobs on the cabinets. They take every fixture. And so you have to go in and do the renovations, or they take the carpet out. They do weird things. And so the renovation loan would come in handy because you can't land on the house if it's in too much disarray. So, but I did some that were taken back. I did one on Green Lake that had no carpet, no appliances. It just had to have you have to have a stove and a heater and a water source. Those are the main things you need to have in the house. But it was still, it was a good deal for them, but they went and did the renovations on their own in cash. So it's really kind of all over the board on the different types that you see. But the FHA foreclosure, it's a great one to go in and fix. One of my UW professors actually did that up on Camino Island. That's Camino, not Camino, Woodby Island. If I'm mixed up, Woodby Island went in, bought an FHA foreclosure, did an FHA home improvement loan, and made it exactly how we wanted it. So it was a great process, and it was only he did exactly $35,000 in renovation. So just enough to make it cosmetic.
Yeah, it seems like a great option for the right property. So we appreciate all the information, and we hope if you're still with us, you have a great rest of your day. I'm getting no questions, so I think maybe just lots of things for people to stew over. Thanks, Jeff, so much. We really appreciate all of your expertise and you always taking time to give us these wonderful webinars and share us about the Affinity home buying benefits from HomeStreet Bank.
Perfect. Well, thank
All
you.
right. Have a good one, everyone.